Okay, time is almost. We do opening prayers first. Okay. Dollar don't worship no worship Tarbatan Tam Jen Jen Pada Juparse Batam Mon Quatan Jen Tam Jen Devatan Den Donga Danda Yudalana Mipa Yang Dabai Zobe Janja Rambo Please, one more time in English. In on the way.
Oh, that's it. Oh, it tap the tap thing a cremenda. Intitola. This which you so from our prayer book, all mother sentient beings, limitless space, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience, may they experience happiness, be free from suffering, and swiftly may they attain precious, unsurpassed, perfectly complete enlightenment. For that purpose, until I attain Buddhahood, I will apply my body, speech, and mind to virtue. Until death, I will apply my body, speech, and mind to virtue. From today until this time tomorrow, I will apply my body, speech, and mind to virtue. Until awakening, I take refuge in the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all beings. The ground is sprinkled by scented water and strewn with flowers. And by offering and Mount Meru, sun and moon, by offering it as a Buddha field, may all sentient beings enjoy the Pure Lands.
Om Guru Devanda Kana Rana Mandala Padeta Sovai Semje Namje Sambata Loye Seda Jadawa Jejon Temon Tebaya Jujan Golo Godeso.
Please turn the wheel of the Dharma of the greater and lesser vehicles and the teachings common to both, according to the dispositions and mental capacities of sentient beings.
Gindela yang sanza lo do jen janje dala naro dama pamala jeje gambo baba moduwa jondo baka julo manalangu sanza rome jujenje purane tu sanje konje ngo nira sunju kongo sonzo sobo lama nalaga sanza paden sobo lama rambo jedaga jo peme den yone kaden jimbe kone jizonde kuzon do jengo do so do so shizon donga jenda jejenje nyaso me bongyo jila so senjen do nyoda sanjena Samala Taki Dele.
Tashidele, everyone.
Lama Chashi Tere.
Asitele lama.
Ta tere ngato ti pardo to take nani ta pardo nipa molang pardo kote te she yare pa. Tene molang pardo te la tambo tonsin sum songundo te tonsin sum de karere sena Malam pardo te nyamlin yongya ke chi to tambo ninang ke chi la nangwa na ros nyenka ke nangwa de so yang che tega sa che ke chondang yin pal tor to ya ke che to nangwa ran ros wa che ta teni nomo malam ke chi te la tim churpa ran ros wa che malam de ta che dan chunang ro ro te Tor to ya lan chuba ran ro se ba che ta teni dongchen sun ba te ta ma zo nin tu bo ge gab su teni ti tomo te o sa la to ya tomo ran ro se ba che ge dongchen sam se ne yong gu do.
So today we will continue the teachings on the Six Bardos. And after Six Bardos, today we will speak about the Bardo of dreaming. And the Bardo of dreaming is divided into 3 sections or categories. And so these are made so that we will train our mind in the practice of the dream, at a Bardo of dreaming. And so the first one is referred to as the natural liberation of appearances. And so that mainly refers to the appearances that appear in the waking state at daytime. So various appearances appear, and then we become confused by these appearances. And so to liberate these appearances is then called the natural liberation of appearances. Secondly is a practice that is related to the dreaming, and that is called the natural liberation of confusion. A dream is confusion. So to become liberated from that confusion is the natural liberation of confusion. And number 3 is related to the deep sleep state, where the mind is in an ignorant state. And so causing this state of ignorance to come to a state of luminosity, of clarity, that is called the natural liberation of ignorance.
Ta te la nga zo molam yongya ke chi to ta ta nangwa ran ro se ju te la teni nga zo ti chudok na na song go yorwa ti julu se ju te nangwa tam ji jo ma ta la to ta ta nga ran so go du je go zo bo zong nang de so yang jo ma kan lu jo ma ta la to bo ta ta ti ko la ko yorwa Tela teni julu ke tri tela, tambo tela te yewanda wo nye ke goni. Yonga yore, madape julu la lap, madape julu la jaya chekta, teni tela yinpa taku julu la jane. Dona che nangwa tam che ke joma tabu la jaya ke, tenda ke che apa tam madawa sine, deti nyenda wo yonga yore.
So then in order to train in the dream state, first there is the liberation, the natural liberation of appearances. And that is related to the six dharmas of Naropa, the section on the illusory body. And so here we need to realize that all appearances are illusory. And so now we have this material body, this appearance of a body, which is to be realized as illusory. And so these teachings are a method to realize this. So within those instructions on the illusory body, a twofold division is made. First, there is the impure illusory body. So there's a training related to that. And then there's a training related to the pure illusory body. But in brief, we are here to, in this section, we are to train in the illusory nature of all appearances. And so here, in terms of the body, these twofold divisions of pure and impure illusory body is made.
And that when Yamlin Sipatela, when a Yakunda Jumayina, ne Wimba, Retunda Ola, then the Goris on the Teta Chatting, taking Zonkayona, that the Gogundo, Nevemba Landro, Samdo, Segura, and Nevembala. That Nevemba and some situated, and Nevemba Simba Zamjiko, Yinka Sema, Namto Nyon, Semishivata, Tender Cha. Ngazo data semne motopa namto mangbo ji nyumba mangbo ji yongjin ro de ngazo khoryo la ra le ndo ko yo ra ba den de ne wen bang ro ko jum si ne wen ba la chim ba zam je de ne ra yin ge sem ma xie wa dang lo ba den de la cha to ko yo re si den de chu nyam le si mo to so pa che su ne wen ba la no na en sam le de den go go wa.
So in the ideal case of practice, if all the necessary criteria are complete, then ideally one would go to a place of isolation, like a mountain retreat, where one can engage in retreat practice. So that is ideal, because it is said that when one goes to such an isolated place, then just by merely being there, naturally within one's mind, the afflictive emotions and all the thoughts will be reduced, and naturally one's mind will become more peaceful. And so now the reason really why what really contributes to our present mind unable to abide still is because there are this endless chain of thoughts and afflictions always arising, and that is highly dependent on our surroundings. So for this reason, it is said that it is very beneficial to go to such an isolated place to practice, because merely being there will naturally lead to one's mind being more peaceful and relaxed. So a Dharma practitioner, therefore, is generally advised to go to practice in retreat in a place of isolation.
Da de da ke ne win ba ri yang na je ne win ba cha jin man zong na so su nan dan de nyam le sin go zu bu gap su to ma de la sim ji de la yang da rang ke je mo lam ke nyam le de mo lam ke nyam le na ni yang to ma de la de yu lu ke nyam le se wa de chur yin de yong wa la de ni lama za wa lama yodam na la so ran da mo lam da kung long ya bu se da gen da ta ke nyam le se ne de ni sem ji mang bu je la pin to bu ta den de che de sem ji tham je sang je ge sa la yan rin to bu ta la de ni nga rang ge da ta wa dang bo nyam le se ge yin san kung long ja chen bo se de no go re song do wa.
So you go to this place of isolation, or if the conditions are not complete to do that, you can also practice in your home. But when you begin your practice, you must begin the practice with the motivation, the mind generation. So also here, when you practice with dreaming, or we practice with the illusory body, first you cultivate at the right mind, a mind generation. And so for that, you first supplicate and you pray to the guru, the root guru, and to the Yidam deities and so on. So in order that your practice really will become authentic. So you cultivate a good motivation and think that I am going to engage in this practice in order to be able to benefit many sentient beings, in order to be able to bring all sentient beings to the state of enlightenment. So such a vast motivation is what you need to cultivate when you first engage in practice.
Karma na zo dan tani che ta zhong tang zhong cher tang ma la so pa che mang bo che ngu po din ba zhab de pe yo nang xia de ma da ba yin ba da da che me yin de nang wa nang zam ju jin le din ne nang zam yin ba ha ma ma zo din ba de cho le din ba zong de le din ne tani sen ching wa ku jo ta o che ma rang zo nyu mong ba mang bo che ndali songo yores de jomata tengen zen su ngone sena ta de na yores de ngone sena jomata jomanda wache res tene nga so kendala chna dimba la menzinwa o tende kan zimba moyong wa sho nga so jomata la to fa che tende to fa che war sho san ne ke tene mo lam dang kun long tende se ko wa.
And so then also part of this motivation, this intention that we cultivate here is that so now we are perceiving appearances. We think that the appearances that manifest to us actually exist when they actually do not inherently exist. So various things appear to us. Colors, white and red, and cities and people and so on. Many things appear to us and we hold them all to possess a true inherent existence. So this is how things appear to us. They appear as though they possess some real existence. And then this appearance, this perception is also impure. We don't recognize that, for example, the appearance of a person is merely an appearance that appears due to various causes and conditions. And not recognizing that, we cling to the true existence, the truth of these appearances. And this is what causes the mind to be in bondage. And it is from this that all the many thoughts and afflictive emotions arise. So when we develop the illusion-like samadhi, we realize that appearances do appear, however, they are mere illusions and they appear in an illusory way. So here, as part of the motivation when we engage in practice, then we should pray that may the grasping at the true reality of mere appearances, may this confusion be freed. May I realize the illusory nature of appearances. So this aspiration is also part of the motivation.
Melong che rang la yone tena na zongin char chone tene melong na go zongin tela ta sha da sha go yore che ngune na yi sha go yore te kola chonang yong go yo marwa kola che ya po la na ga yo ya tang do po la na do yo ya zong sa wo sha de go yore te melong te pe pyo se ne na ha mo na tende se ne ta phi tende che la tene melon na ge zong yin la da ke to pa da me pa la so pa se te pem chung la ya ne de ni mu ne se na da da nga rang ke je zo ta na wan de da tham che yang je melon na ge zong yin da yin ba de ke dong da de to pa tab la de pe ju se ge yo re ne ma na.
And so then when we begin the actual practice, as a skillful means. In the old days, in the past, one would place a mirror in front of oneself, and then one would have an image be reflected within that mirror. And so the image is reflected. It actually appears, and it appears as a real image. But from the perspective of the mirror, there is no feeling that is generated toward the reflection that appears. So if no one praises it, then it wouldn't be happy about it. One wouldn't be happy about it. And if one blames, one accuses, then there would be no feeling of sadness about this. It's just there. It's just appears, a mere appearance. So in the old days, this is the method that would be used. One would use a mirror, and then one would insult it or would say something nice and so on. And then that one would use that as an example to understand that actually all these appearances, all forms, all appearances are just like these reflections in a mirror. So this is a method to realize that, a method that was used in the old days.
Teni tatan rawol cha yapa yena ngune julu juma tawa yinpa tsur ngus sapo ti ten yongni tatan nga tsu ta tsinrek chocha mangpo duwa. Tetsu ngune chane sena julu ke pe yakshu rawa. Ta tata par tang, nyin tang, ta tetsu te chik ngune chane na yin yonggo yore te. Teni nyin lang yali tang par jab yali tetsu la ko tetsu la katse yapo tang, dopo tang, nga tsu nyebju tang, tongchong tang, kanda sena yang ko nyin lang yali di nyin lang yali ri, jetawa yin do yonggo yore te, ta tsona yonggo yo mara ko tsu la. Te nekab tenang tin chucha ke ju jing zomba la tena chik na yong wari, zho yong wari ma to, dung ngubo la zhogo yo mara. Ngone sena jetawa yin do yonggo yore ba, dung ngubo zhogo yo mara. Tetsu te pe ngema da melong, kaya mebe kapsu melong penchung ri, ta tsama ngane julu ke penchung rawo yabu chadi duwa. Samno yabu tangwa yina.
And actually nowadays, we have so many more examples of an illusory body that we can actually very clearly show us this illusory body. And that is because nowadays science has developed much technology, many various technical devices. And these are actually the best example of illusory body. For example, we are taking a picture or we are looking at a clip and so on. It seems to be real. We're seeing it on the screen. But then whatever you say to it, whether you praise it or you blame it, no matter how much you say to it, it will not have any feeling or reaction to that. Even though what appears as the real thing, it actually is there, it's still not actually truly existing. So this is what we actually can, this is how we can practice also nowadays with the various technological devices. Like in the old days, you just didn't have anything else, and people were using a mirror, for example, to have an illustration of the illusory body. But now, with the advancements of technology, things actually do appear, and yet they do not really exist. So now we have, when we really think about it, we have so many excellent examples of illusory body.
Ngune te yaboji pepjo se na muwi ta na yang te nyamlin la nga so ke cherto ya tende siya yore wa ta nga so ta ga yore drone te cheta wa yin do ma ta ga yore te ta kon chona re wa chona ta nga ran so ko ma che na yin do do ko yo ma re wa te ta wa ji hibo go ni ta chu tham pe ga ran yin da ta re wa che jo ma ta Riwa samni ke te pe tuon topa ka che de tende chek samno tangwa yena lo nyi tewa yena nyamle nan ro to ya siya yore te maze pa che ta ngune tane ka che chon nang ke 즉 닝철라 양딘바 존에 아 차당 전부라고 파쇼 자니 로니 다제 다운디 가신 맥주 다운데시고 걸리 연거도와 당근은 전날라야 양철라야 딘반지 던데서는 응은에 다는지 던데서는 출발라 닝철세는 되니 컨트롤라야 고 딘진세는 던데 쇼도 요래 대 마인 바세는 율루나 인가 배동 토야가 타키세는 저 담제 냥는을 쳤더야 연거 요래.
For example, if we are watching movies, films, if we really use the watching of a movie, then that actually can also become practice. So when we watch a movie, a film, then the story is just like how it happens in our life. So it's a real story. And when we look at it, often we get so involved in the movie, we grasp at the true existence. So actually it could be used as a way to understand the lack of existence. And then as a basis of that, one could understand that all phenomena have that nature. They are like illusions. So if one thinks in this way, then even watching a movie can become practice. Otherwise, if we get all involved and cling to the true existence of the story that is told in the movie, then actually we are creating confusion upon confusion, this life that's already confusion. And on top of that, we are watching this film that we believe is true. And then we develop all kinds of thoughts of attachment and aversion just by looking at the movie. And some people start crying when they watch a movie. So that's really confusion upon confusion, like utter confusion, because we are grasping at the reality of the film that we are seeing. And when we are already grasping at the reality of our daytime experiences. However, if one can see this and practice with it, use it in order to practice in the illusory body, then actually this can become a good method to become one's actual practice.
nang zam rao chik songwa re ma to ngune tong to chupa yong yo ma re sa ngune se na trop ma myong wa re ma ong ba la de me ba cha ge yo re cha ma de da da nga so de ma che ko lo ju na yi de cha ma zo ne tong ba cha ro yo re me ma yang ngune se na trop ma myong ba re de de sa me pa de yu lo ja ya ta ki de se ko ya sa re.
So when you're watching a movie, for example, first a feeling might arise. And so then that triggers something in you, like you start to laugh or you get very sad about it and you cry, or it's funny and so on. So that when the feeling arises, then look at that and recognize this is just confused appearance. It is just something that comes from this device. And it is just appearance, it's not reality. So at that time, one must clearly recognize that. And actually, if we think about it, all of these appearances in our waking state, the daytime, our life, is actually also just a story like that. Actually, there is not so much difference between a movie and our own life. Our own life appears in this way temporarily due to the coming together of various causes and conditions. But ultimately, actually, it doesn't really exist. It never did. It never existed. And it will disappear in the future. So this life is just like a story that will come to an end and become empty. And then it has never really existed in the first place before. And so this is a way where how we can train our mind in the illusory nature of appearances or the illusory body. And so then you continue to reflect, and me too, I'm just illusory. My body is just illusory. And the speech is like an echo that is illusory. For example, when you're making a recording of your voice, then whenever you play it again, there's the same voice again. So it doesn't actually exist. It's illusory. It just is heard temporarily due to various causes and conditions coming together. But in reality, the sound does not really exist. In reality, the sound has no power at all to bring benefit or to cause harm. It is just that when we are confused and we grasp at the sound, then harm is experienced. But actually, from the side of the sound itself, it doesn't have any power to generate any benefit or any harm. It is just like an echo. So in this way, similarly, we can also train in the illusory nature of sound.
Sanje Jomdin de Gandona, Jumape Josin, Sonja Yorwa, Tatanga Zondondo Yaji Tije Yoritella, Karma Rabra Mametan, Juma Serpa Churda, Mulan Lord and Tinta Duzechunam Tetatas in Jumape Jos in Sanje Song Yabandona, Teleche Yore. Titsike de Jakena Nando, Jaketi Doje Chuba, Tinana Yore. Chetawa yinda tina na yore. Tenge ma chare. La.
Yeah, doje chupa eh.
Doje chupa jai jingang jinse. That jacket nge ma ji lawe.
So
Ya chi ambo te jona.
yeah, ina nga chu chama nga koma song this joke dagre. Kyo mara.
Keyo mare ta te pa che ambo ga ha ko yore. Joma pe kyo kanje ke sung do na.
The Buddha in a sutra mentioned 10 examples of illusion, and there is a verse that contains these 10 examples, and so some of them are now it is like everything is like a mirage or like haziness, and everything is like an illusion, a dream, and so on. Rabbi Lama said that in the Chinese, there is a text in the, what is it, the Doji Chupa. So in there, it lists those 10 examples very well. And so and Rabbi Lama is going to say that, chant those 10 in Chinese.
这个在《金刚经》里面啊，一切有为法，如梦幻魄翳，如露亦如电，应作如是观。这个是在加盖呢有的，多的就把呢有的话个，就嘛个背 저这个有的天呢被卷着我们都上说刚才呢大三节个送要把个多呢送要的找我一下的你
So these 10 examples, they are in some Chinese Vajra verses, and there's those 10 examples, but it's in there's probably not 10, but these are very similar to how the Buddha described it in the sutra.
다때 다 마다 베줄을 쓰겠더라 다 나랑 다다게 내가 나랑서 다다게 나와 즉 타마와 그 다당 난초제 요러와 다다 나서 타마와 값을 때즉 렘반다고 즉 란진에 대해서 되게 요래 오늘 야보삼노 당 다다제 다 논인당 저나 인 차야네 파삼노 당 다다 나서 그 제다 론도 줄람 초와라 소판 고용데다 참아 즉 점마다 즉 리샤산 오늘 다나게 뎀바다 드롭데와 즉 문도 산이 그 대다고 그 절로데 마티가 발도라더니 양미양도 삼노 다네 고미야 다때 마다부 줄 장세나 다당아도 타마를 나와도 저 점마다고 레산에 대글로 마티 발도 자야텔라 마다부 줄을 쓰게 요래
And so the training of the impure illusory body happens in the context of our present life, where now all appearances manifest in this ordinary way. We perceive them in an ordinary way. So perceiving them in an ordinary way, we hold these appearances to be true. But actually, if you really think about it carefully, for example, thinking about a movie and so forth, actually, our entire life is like that. When we are walking around, all of the things that we do, our making a living, living this life, our surroundings, it all is like an illusion. And none of that possesses any true existence. So until this state of mind arises, one has to reflect and meditate on this point continuously again and again. So when we train in the impure illusory body, we are training to view the ordinary appearances as they appear as illusory by nature. And until this has really become one state of mind, until one has mastered that, one practices the impure illusory body.
Tene nipa tabu julele jang sujure da nga so nam yun che yadam ke san nang da tene da nang la so ba go ne te nang wa tham che te ta pa lai ra yin sin du ji je yo wa te to de ta tabu julele se na te cho re pe na nga rang so che zupo de yadam ke nam ba la gom ya ta te te ren ba yin de komri shok chir ndone teni ching nawa chama ka tele mande pa ti ra yin te dang rao tende che songwa yin na teni ta nga cho ta che eri pardo tangbo ka chi ka mang yin rao ngune ka chi nyingpo rao te cha ka yore teni pardo ta ti chunye ka pardo kap sa yang ta te ta che nga cho nawa tamche yadam jera yin rawo jela to thoya che sungwa yin na teni tin pardo ka ni dro mo dro le thong go ma re so na de song yo re ta che ta pu julu se ne te malam ke che ngon ro ka nyamlen rawo che re te dong mo ma la te ta we nyamlen te ta nga so che ne pardo ke che ning bo ta ne che chwenye pardo ka pse ne ngone ta ne ke che ya dro ya ke And
then second is the training of the pure illusory body. And so that is our the practices that we normally do, we visualize the form of the Yidam deity, and we cultivate a pure perception, understanding that all appearances are pure and by nature the deity. So that's the training in the pure illusory body. And so, for example, we are visualizing our own body in the form of the Yidam deity, and then gradually we habituate to ourselves to that. And until when that habituation becomes very strong, then naturally all appearances will not go beyond that. Then one will see everything like that. And so therefore, this instruction really also is like the essence or the foundational instruction of the first Bardo. And also then in the Bardo of Dharmata, after death, if you are able to recognize all appearances as the Yidam deity, if you realize that, then there is no doubt as to whether or not you will attain liberation in the Bardo. You will surely attain liberation. So even though now this training of the impure illusory body seems to be like a foundational or preliminary practice, but actually also constitutes the really essence of the Bardo of living and also the Bardo of Dharmata. It really is the very cause of becoming liberated in the Bardo.
Pena ngaranzo tata lai kojila yabo tani tani yana share jig nang ni paja jamne make the share la to na tanda se lai ko la patana tani ta wasn't tro de wan ro thong yong yo yana make zer de lai ko la tana la ko ni dang so mambo tanda thong ro yo na wo chu tam de na ji de ma se ngaranzo tata na ro je de chja be ju se na lai ko la je wasn't tro de wa ngang ren ko de wa yana lai ko jig la ko ja cha za pan tro de wa then the lao go zone to do then now tam che di na yi se na pa da bu ko la da bu ju le jang ka su now tam che la then the se na da bu lai che ga ru se go ru nang la ra yi mi ba se ba de da nang to ko yo wo so nga rang zo la da wo so da che me ge ju la nang do go ro yin na ra yi mi ba se ko wo ne da ne yang zu ko yo ma re de da we se ne ba 다부 줄을 장나 안 탑던데 배주세는 봐 장초요.
Or for example, you can look at, first you look at an image of a deity, like a statue of a deity. Look at it well. And then you take like a crystal and you place the crystal onto your eye. And then you look through the crystal at the deity's image. And then you can see how from the image of the deity, various light rays and so forth, various images manifest from it. Or for example, if you're squeezing your eyes a little bit, then this one deity suddenly becomes 2 or 3 deities. So this is just how it is with all phenomena that appear. Actually, nowadays, we can use technology to make that happen very easily. Through technology, for example, we can have a deity and then we can make light rays emerge from the deity and mantra garlands to emerge and one deity to multiply into 100 deities and so forth. So now with technology, we can very easily do that. And it's the same actually with all the appearances. So when we train in the pure illusory body, then we train our mind in the pure deity nature of all appearances that do appear, but that also lack any true inherent existence. So now we can see many actual things with our eyes, but actually they do not exist inherently that way. So now we have various methods that we can use in order to train our mind in the pure illusory body.
다 말람 그치 말람 출발한 로스 저대 다다다 줄로 그치 때라 되니 말람 출발때 란사 조토 탑때 마소 당보 그치 나완도 저 조마타불로 또나 되니 레라운도 차가요사 다 말람 출발한 로스 저그 치 때라 돈신 수엄 요래 당보 말람 종와 말람 심베 탑시 저지 다 teni malam sen sona teni malam tudursia jekta teni jemate malam ke kaiksa ya yang kai mangbo yoro malam de ke nyamlen de choyin de yongya la yang pa chen da kai da mangbo yoro de ge sa be thap sen dongchin suam sen la bu do.
So the instructions on dreaming are the natural liberation of confusion. And so the instruction on the illusory body, through the instruction of the illusory body, one can recognize their dream-like nature, the illusory nature of dreams. And in this way, confusion becomes liberated in its natural place. And so when one realizes all these appearances as illusory, then it becomes actually very easy. So in the context of dreaming, there are the instructions whereby confusion is self-liberated. And that itself has 3 sections. Number 1, so where we train in the dream, how confusion is liberated in the dream. Number 1 is there are methods to recognize the dream state. Then secondly, once one has recognized the dream state, then there is the practice of emanating and transforming. And number 3 is the dispelling of hindrances in the dream. So it can happen that various hindrances, obstacles may appear in a dream that prevent one from authentic practice. So there are methods to dispel these hindrances.
Tambo de la ngomana yinsin da tambo kunlong chik ta malam nyamlin de la tene tene senjin tamche la chik pin to ta de chik che de yin sam ba te ta tene ma nyaro kap so yin de ta kun den ba de hyok chen bu go ndo ta malam che chorma song sig yin sam kun den ba de hyok chen bu tene ma nyaro kap so yin ta te yo ye pa sa la po go sang de tin song yore ta la pa ye jin ram pa jor yong ye den je den de ya song yore de ta so de yo ye pa sa la pa ju de ri ya go sang la yin je me je ta ta ma de na yin je me je tin go ni pa je yo je ma re sang.
And so for the first one, just like before, you begin with the motivation. So you think that may I be able to bring great benefit to all sentient beings through my practice of dreaming. So, and then when you lie down to go to sleep, what's important is to have a very strong aspiration, a determination in your mind. So as you lie down, you think, may I not become confused in my dreams. And so then there are instructions on how we should lie down. It is generally said that we should lie down, lying on our right side with our head facing into the northern direction and with our right hand lying on our cheek, and then the left hand along our waist. But even if all of these are not done, what's most important is to lie on one's right side. If it's not convenient for you, for your head to face into the northern direction, then that's fine too.
Tene ma niwa kap so na ngarang tamar pa ma yen pa se na che ta pa yedam kan nam ba che ta sa thom na sa re che tan che ram tes kom de ba yin na te ta sa ma thom na yan den ba te yin sa ba mo pa za se ne ten do se ne ni tene ni de nga ga ngen go ke te na Zabel Lama, Yo Sambasin, Tangarante Bakara Chena Lama Tang Yana Yedam, Tender, Tana Yo Sambase, Telatini Sovata, Telema Nine, Mikbanda, what the Yimbate Karasi Gorisena, Tatangarang and Rimba Ganangla, Guru Rumbuchiko Chunchon, Wukara Yinjinje. Tundeje yo some tela sentene, tenemani to the tapsi goris on the.
So then you go to sleep, and you shouldn't fall asleep seeing yourself as ordinary, but you should see yourself in a pure way, such as the Yidam deity. So if you're familiar with the visualization of the Yidam deity, if you're able to do that, then you should visualize yourself as the Yidam. If you're not able to visualize, then you can just have the awareness of I am the Yidam, I am pure. And so then also on top of your pillow, above your pillow, think that your head, there is the root guru, or whoever you have more faith in. It can be the guru, it can be the Yidam. Just think that he's there, they're there, and then supplicate to the guru or the Yidam. And then as you fall asleep, there's another visualization. So here you visualize at your throat, inside your throat, a small form of Guru Rinpoche having the nature of light. So think he's actually there. Direct your mind just toward that and fall asleep.
Tene Nabjela Malam Mazena, Tene Yang to tell them the Johnson, Teta was in Jama Sepa Yina, Tene Ramba Yinto. That's also Yamlin Comdi Chichon Lapan, Tene Dava Yana Davani, and the same Malam Teta was into younger is on.
And so in this way you train, and if you are not able to recognize the dream state right away, then continue to practice with effort again and again. And so then gradually, as you keep becoming more familiar with the practice, it is that after like 1 or 2 months or so, you will be able to recognize the dream state.
Tene Malam Mazin na Tanyin Katsu ni se on Backups, Malam Mambo me, Yina Munzin Tavio Mari. Tante Capsu on Dan Malam Te Mambo Mason. When I say nothing, Terrain Ganawa, Kazan Ganawa, the Chipa Mepa, Tendeche Kazan Ganawa Yang Kondetawari, the Malam Setavana Yesen. Nyananda Malam ni Chepa Hira, Mondo Sambas, Tendesin, Karsi Malam Azena, some of Tendeki Katani, or that same Cheso Tendesi or on your.
And so for as long as you still do not recognize the dream state, reflect and think that now when you're waking up in it's daytime, you're in a waking state, you might think that, oh, last night I had so many dreams. We have so many dreams, but we don't recognize them. And so then you should reflect that actually the appearances of today and yesterday's appearances, there is actually no difference between them. Yesterday's experiences have passed. The dream has passed. And actually, there is no difference between the waking state appearances and the dream appearances, the sleep appearances. So for as long as you do not yet recognize the dream state, train your mind in this by reflecting in this way.
Kirtan Tazo Tatak Malam Yamlin Cortella, Mambo Gamino Delasiki Yorite, then Lelawati Chaga Yomari. Karisina Namju Yamlin Yapu Yodepa, Ninkana Yamlin Yapu Yodepa, and the check Teni dancing ni Kodewate and Yamlin La Pasen, the Yankagan Yamlin the Pansin, Ni Coco Capsa, Te Patina, and a treat of Kakiji. tende je chaga yorwa ta mangbo je la nyangka nyang len chuni nyangka semne ma tho pa ji la tenen sem mala na semne tho pa ji te kale ka ko yong ma re yena ta ta mlam ngu sim pa tende je yong si pa re mlam ngu sim pa ta tende yong na yang pin to chen bo yo tene ta ta mlam ge chi sun ba mlam osal jang ka te ta te kale ka bo shi osa jang se ba la ngarang so la tang bo rang ge che rikpa ngon chu tene te la pe gom ri ya bo cha tin bo cha tene ti ge rikpa ngon chu de ba gom ri te nin thok bo na ni ya tene ti na na de to te la ma to mo te osal jang se ge yo ba te kale ka bo yong ge yo re te ta ma lang ngon jin to ba ten de yong si ba re.
And so actually, in general, there are many people really like this practice of the practice with the dreaming, dream yoga. But actually, it's really not easy. And that is because normally in our daytime, we are not always actually practicing. So if we were to also recognize our dream state, that would first require us to be able to practice very well during the daytime in the waking state. And so when your practice is very strong at daytime, then you will then gradually also be able to bring this practice that you have gained in the daytime into your nighttime when you're sleeping. And in this way, we'll become able to also practice when you're sleeping. But on the other hand, if we are not able to really practice much in our daytime, when in the daytime the mind is not really able to abide still, then it will be very difficult, if not impossible, to have a still abiding mind also at night when we are dreaming. So it might happen, though, that you recognize the dream state, and actually that in itself is a great benefit. But in the third instruction on the dream yoga, it says that one trains to bring one's dreams into luminosity, and so that is actually extremely difficult. So what that requires, training in luminosity, is that first of all, you have recognized your rigpa, your awareness, and then you have habituated to it very well. So it has become very stable. So then this habituated awareness that you have recognized is then brought into the deep sleep state. And in this state, then the recognition remains. And so this is what's called training in the sleep luminosity. But that is extremely difficult. However, it is possible to recognize the dream state.
Tene tata ti na yita mani ha de malam singo samne gun duen pa ta. Tene sawe lama ta yeda no sowa molam ta. Tende nga ni ta yang ni yang de se de na te ha ta duen ba tikle gom je te ta. Tende me pa ten mani ku ta. Ta to ba yin ji pa ma chu ba ta. Tende se ne jang de wa yin. Tene ta malam simba yong go re si yena tang bo de la che malam te sa ke mang ru simba tang malam mang ton wa tang teni de malam te sa run wa nam je nga so malam ka la sa po me ba me ne me so teni che xie ya ne me ba teni che cha ge yo wa man te ne ma xie ya ne me ba yang ka xie tang bo sa po ro na te sa ri de jen ro teni yong go yo re te zu te sa po yo ba ta je ngu so ga na wa na yo ba ta tende yong go re si malam mandon do ya ta malam sa to ro yang ta to so yong go re si teni ren ba yin de ta do man tu ne jang de ne teni malam ngo sin ta ba ta di ji ne yong go re so.
So before you go to sleep, have a clear aspiration, thinking that may I recognize the dream state, and then supplicate, pray to the root guru, to the yidam, And so then you practice this again and again. And so also you visualize this small sphere, this window in your throat, and you fall asleep. And try to fall asleep without having many thoughts in your mind. So if you train in this way, then gradually you will be able to recognize the dream state. And so when that happens, actually, first that leads to an increase in dreams. So there are more dreams, and also the dreams are more clear. So normally when we have a dream, they're not so clear. And we know that we did dream about something, but then later we can't really tell about it. We can't really remember it clearly. So at that time, the dreams will become very clear. So not like usual, even if it is clear, then again, we forget about it and so on. So at that time, the dreams become more, they increase, and also they become more clear, so clear, like they are a real appearance. They seem very real. So this is what happens when you gradually train in the dreaming. And then if you continue to train, then eventually you will recognize the actual dream state.
Malam Siena Jinjil, Tambo Siena Jimbo, Andra Chimbo Juson, oh, Teta Mune Marisha, Malam Risha San, teachings in the Malam Simba, Tendo younger is on.
So first you have this strong aspiration to recognize the dream state. And then sometimes also what causes one to recognize the dream state is, for example, if you dream of something very frightening, like a nightmare, you're very afraid in your dream, and this may actually cause you to recognize the dream state. It is that in general, it is very difficult to recognize the dream state. But for example, if strong fear arises in a dream, then through this intense feeling, you may recognize, oh, this isn't real, this is just a dream. So through this condition of fear, it is that you may recognize the dream state.
Tene Katsin Betson Sena, Taron Malam Musi, Matopa, Tendo Juaina, Tene Tachi, the drop Jayatan, Tamsen Yam Chajayatan, Tateta, which Depanda, which you betari is, it, Sonkortayatan, Tamsen Yam Chak, Yamuche to take Yapasiata, Dodges Gondesiata, Ta Trusia Las, but to do Govakatan or is.
And so if you're still not able to recognize the dream state, no matter how much you try, then it is a sign that there are obscurations. So then you need to do practices to purify those obscurations and practices to purify broken samayas and so forth. You can do talk or feast offerings, you can perform confession, you can practice the meditation and recitation of Vajrasattva. You can practice purification or cleansing rituals and so forth. So that is a sign that these kind of practices are necessary.
Ne tata malam Siena Jin Latin, Malam Risam Tendo the Yongsiba here. Ta Namjuan Samson. Anderson, Siena Jiana Jir, Taran Tombon, Ma Long Soman, Siena Champion. Then it desert on that Munerimedo, Malan Riche, Goya Modosan Sando, Anderson, Ya, Rajinka. Then it tell a 10 Muslim Latina, Tenima Salama, Jando Dea, Nuba Kayameba. Chick de Wunda watching, come to Bondos and Masal Jando, Nendo Yata, Ka Game Mebas in the Teresa Samson. Gender younger Yoruba, Tendu Yana Jeta, Jinzin, Tang, Tela, Sobata, Jaquadan, Gomadan, tende jilun chewa ngamra jene tene yang te ngusin ba. Tende tap ngamra tene ngusin ate tende sene yongsi ba. Tende risha.
So it is possible that we may recognize the dream state if fear arises. So for example, when strong fear arises, for example, you are on a cliff of a high mountain and you're about to fall down. So you're in panic. And then due to this panic, you may recognize, oh, this isn't real. This is a dream. There's nothing to be afraid of. So you might just naturally recognize that. And then even though you might fall down the cliff, you won't be hurt and you will just land comfortably without any harm. So this also may sometimes happen. Or for example, in your dreams, if you encounter like a wild animal or a robber, a thief, and so on, fear is triggered and that may lead you to recognize the dream state. So this is possible to happen.
Tene te tawa malam tima che sin, ni sin, tene malam kadun zongo samna ya sen topa, tende ngu sen topa, tende chawa yena, tene ta malam trujur zuju tela labo re. Malam trujur tela, malam trujur la laba ne, malam sin putu se, ta nga malam je tu yin si. Malam je tu yin tu tene nge kare che na si to, trujur si togo re, nyamba ka goni tene, 다 말람 거나니 즉 현황진 즉 손나야 되니 될라 마예와다 대 마체 그 말람 거나니 다 조라다니 즉 예담 거나마 예담 걸러라 널 조야다 대양 예담 걸러라 조네 대 예담 대 앞에 망보라야 조야다 너네 되니 강 고고스도 조와단 또 같은데 연구를
So then, as you keep training and you begin to recognize your dreams once and twice and so on, and when you then reach the state where you can recognize your dream at will, then it is time to begin with the second training, which is the training of the emanating and transforming within the dream. So you have recognized that you are in a dream. So you know, now I am in a dream. Therefore, I can do anything. I can emanate, bring forth, create anything. So sometimes when fear arises in the dream, you can emanate it into something that's not frightening. Or you can transform into the form of the Yidam deity. And sometimes, not even just one, you can transform into many Yidam deities. So in brief, here you're training in this ability to transform into anything at will during the dream state.
Tene te mace malam simba kapsu, ta tabu hinkang rogo san jambate, ta sanje opa namju nyamne sindungi sanje opa mele tepa chenpo yori, tanga dewa tina malam zone dewa tina rogo san. Usu let to ya, Malam kana usu tong to ya. Mune dewa tina jeso na yes, Malam kana sanje shanja to ya. Tende yongo re song.
And so then moreover, having recognized the dream state, you can, for example, also go to a certain pure land. For example, if you're normally doing the practice of the Buddha Amitabha, and if your devotion in the Buddha Amitabha is very strong, then in the dream state, so you know that you're in a dream, and you can think that I'm in a dream and now I want to go to the Pure Land of Devachan. And then through this aspiration, you will actually get there. You will actually go to Devachan in your dream state, and you will actually meet the Buddha Amitabha directly.
Tene je malam nani ta tujo la soba desa yongwa chana tene ngarang to namju hi enang yo sa tene la chinga bana chu chenbo 남중 가서 출진 보던 바존 로 보고 말이야. 디 현나다 남자 박자 요르와 말랑 값어 챙아 던져서 쳐는 반도 현나 저 발라 진보던 당가 몰라미 말이야. 몰라미 인도더니 대 건도야메 바테 된 거니 대 초진보란 거야. 다른 동보 간마 총야 당대라서 현나 요바도 소라. 다 몰람 토지 있으나 다다가 몰람 그 르인 바 강양 용야메서 디 이징아니 남중 가라 제시는 바차 맞다 영도사도 또 참아라 바 토진다고 양장고를 예송도.
And so then you train in this way in emanating and transforming in your dream state. And then you can also take it further in the dream and intentionally in your dream go to a place that would normally frighten you. For example, like a huge like a river with a lot of huge waves. Normally we wouldn't dare to go close there because we have an imprint of being afraid of that. And so then next in the dream, you can intentionally go to somewhere that usually triggers fear, like a place where there's like a lot of water and waves and so on. And then you go there in your dream, and then you recognize I'm in a dream. This water cannot take me away. So then you can go to such a place, or you can go to a mountain cliff and jump down and so on. And in this way, develop this fearlessness in the dream state, knowing that in this dream form, nothing can actually happen to me. So you develop trust in that. And in this way, you are purifying also all these normal imprints of fear that are within your mind.
yichi yorwa teka manga so te nuba yonga mewa kale san bab togo yoba te yichi yona teni henan chuni yonga yo mara maman chong yo le tetsom yo mara di na yin rawa chao yo.
So one has to therefore come to a state of fearlessness where even if you would jump down a cliff, you wouldn't be afraid because there is no need to be afraid. For example, nowadays people actually do that. They jump down cliffs like they do the bungee jumping or skydiving. They jump out of airplanes and they're not afraid. And they're not afraid because they trust that the parachute when you're skydiving will open up and you will just land comfortably on the ground and nothing bad will happen. So because you trust in that, you're not afraid. And therefore, without any doubt about it, without any hesitation, people just jump out of an airplane, for example. So this kind of fearlessness must be developed here.
Malam Jangwatela, ni chibo go yo, ni go yo. I need to go yo. I'm doing also need to Dr. Yura, Yamin, the reciprocal to ni go, ni ko ni yongo yo, ni kuroma, yoya yo marva. Or that is about tabla de make party. Zupoka me, can't tell the Tulena for Mcbasia. Then there's an Namjuni Mokoni, the Zoya, Nicola La Pinto, younger Yosari. Counter tetani member yegas in Tiglena was in Mandawachi. Gomne mani in the Titani. Ti Narangachi Sanguin Dembata Ma Zubu Melon, Tini Kula Tario is. Tendic Sena Pinto Yoris, Saint Jamdela.
So then we mentioned before there are several hindrances that may arise in the dream that may prevent one from recognizing the dream state. So there are instructions to dispel these hindrances. The first one is, it is that when you're dreaming and you are about to recognize the dream, but before you recognize it, you wake up. So that prevents you from recognizing. So there is a method to dispel that hindrance. And so normally when we train in the dream yoga, we actually need sleep. Normally we say that sleep is not so good, is considered not so good, but actually when we practice with dreaming, we do need sleep. Without sleep, it will not be accomplished. So then this method to dispel the hindrance of waking up before you can recognize the dream is that, so before you fall asleep, there's a visualization where you direct your attention to the soles of your feet, the lower part of your body, and you visualize a black bindu, so black spheres out on the soles of your feet. And that actually also can be very beneficial if you're unable to sleep. It may help you fall asleep. So it is that visualize the bindu of darkness or black bindu on the soles of your feet and then fall asleep. And with that visualization in mind. So that may also be of benefit to dispel this hindrance.
Malam ngusina yang tela padimbando zine. Ti ingando che tela che chinchando tang te dimbalan zine. Tendo jesene yang te kai te ris. Ta tendo johnson yang konyin control na yang malam sina yang malam simba tel pa chaman chondo yore. Te ya yang ni mare se tela ta ngaran nam jung ke che juluk kola. Te ha kon de la pa yang then
the second hindrance is that even though you might recognize the dream state, after recognizing it, you might also grasp at the true existence, its reality. And so then you're caught up in fixation on the truth of the true existence of this dream. So that's also a hindrance. It is just like we are confused in the daytime, and similarly, even though we recognize the dream, we still become confused by the dream. So that also must be remedied. And the remedy for that is that we reflect on the illusory body in the way we have just mentioned before. So here one needs to make a great effort again and again in reflecting on the illusory body. So then the third hindrance is that it could also happen that due to negative imprints within one's mind, one only dreams of negative things. One only has bad dreams, and one cannot have any normal dreams. And that is because, so this is remedied by reflecting that the daytime appearances are like dreams. There is no difference between the daytime appearances and the dream nighttime appearances. So it is said that if you direct your attention strongly on this point, then this will be, then this fault will be remedied.
대파 로론도 당 대바트 총로 당 된데스야 당 되는 남주다 가서 니 먹고 mambo 요래 되는데 니 쿠부 타피 mambo 요래 다 진민라고 당 칼라 주침보 진사야 당 대라서 보다 가서 그 거니 니 쿠부 다 mambo 요래 또 사마 베주스 줘요.
And then the fourth obstacle is that you don't sleep at all. That's also a hindrance. So that could happen because maybe your determination, your aspiration is too strong, which is like too much of a concept in your mind. So if our concept is too strong, then normally also we can't sleep too. So then you try to release that a little bit and make this determination not be too strong. And actually many people have problems with falling asleep, with sleeping. And so in that case, you can apply some of those methods that are normally used. People take various kinds of like medicines, or they eat certain kinds of very nutritious foods and so forth. So then you can rely also on these methods that help you sleep.
다다 공도 해봐대 마인 바 말람 그 책심be 참라고 용터바 남주를 뭐 제가 답을 쓰고 요러와 제관이 고부값수 하다네 예담라 된바대네 되니 진정안이 반이 더봐 진정안이 남도 인가 밤 마치 봐서는 반이 소나 되니 효과될 천이 세험값수 나랑 그 세험는 남도 담보대 대디 예담대 그지 나와대다 많이 고가 나랑 그지 된 바대요 된들만이 세터바대 용나 되니 되게 딘딘 다당가 저 녀랑신 바나 이 차트고 요리 송요 대딘딘 디나이 나랑 저거지 르관도 그 제나야 접토고 요리 대 마인 바야 제 힘바텔랑 도지 대바 나단 오와 다시 바니 띵강이 니 kokto바다 남도 인거 바마죠. 저니 세마 다도 대진도 바도 너지 소마이나 다 대대서 레라원도 랍 냠리시 당 레라원도 요리데 오늘 빈도배 전부 된다고 탑들라 되나 고조 요래.
And then yet another method that we can use to recognize the dream state, but actually we are not, instead of recognizing the actual dream state, but having the same benefit, is a practice that Gachin Rinpoche always tells us. So that is, before you fall asleep, recite mantra and direct your mind toward the Yidam deity, and within that state, fall asleep without allowing any other thoughts to intervene. So when you fall asleep within such a state, then right upon awakening in the morning, without having any other thought, immediately, instantly, the same appearance of the deity manifests. So just like when you fell asleep. So if you're able to awaken in the same state that you fell asleep in of the Yidam, then surely it is just like recognizing the dream state. So that is something that if we really direct our attention toward, it can be accomplished. We can do that. Or another method is to fall asleep while practicing the Amahung Vajra recitation. So then again, you fall asleep within that state without having any other thoughts. And then again, awaken in the morning in that same state that you fell asleep in. And actually, this is a quite simple and easy practice, but actually the benefit is great. And it actually suffices for the recognition of the dream state.
대잠을 스무세나 양 핀도 대다 요래. 근데 몰람데 야고 제가 ngô sinh sung yi na tani ji ma ti bardo ni tan cha cha mang bo yong yo de la ma tro si de ra na ngo shi o yedam la ta to ba la yedam la ta to ba tani cha ba yi na tani bardo ni ta ba to ba shin ga no ro to ba tin tin yong go re song yo.
And so actually it is said that if you are able to recognize the dream state a few times, just a few times in your entire life, it is that if you're able to recognize the dream like 7 times throughout your life, then in the bardo, you will not become confused and you will recognize the bardo. So we can see even such limited recognition has such great benefits. And if you're someone who has really recognized the dream state well, then later in the bardo, when the various manifestations appear, you will not become confused by them, but you will recognize them as your own mind self-projections, or you will be able to see them as the Yidam deity. And if you're able to see appearances in this way, then it is that one will certainly become liberated in the bardo, and one will be able to go to the Pure Lands.
Tene usa tata ti malam ngusimba chana tene usa la jang ya tela te tamo rando lamdoa tamo rando is you could treat it tape nyam ne chen thongpo la lemna ni te ta jong thopa den de chak yo re ta kar si te tamo usa la sen so ke ne te ta ba le ba yina tene sangje ya la thanyo le chawari temo usala ngosin thapna tene bardo tangpo ni chukolo tronro la techom yo ma resong yo den de tene chukolo trosena bardo tangpo ni mapang ponjuk ta chi la ba yo ta was tor wa tel tene chukolo to sangje so sala thanyo cha sa de le la yo ma den de ta tu chu zo kon do den de ti tamo rando treat korte tata chasa mari machana ke yo ma ta tambo te ngoni je malang ngon jin ta ta malam tu jo si jo to so pe yo ron bong ko wa.
And then the second instruction in the dream state, the third instruction, is to recognize luminosity in one's sleep. So to train in luminosity, which is called the natural liberation of ignorance. And so these instructions then are given to someone who has achieved very high levels of practice. So when someone comes to the level of practice where one is actually able to recognize the luminosity of the sleep, of ignorance, one becomes very close to enlightenment. And it is that when ignorance is recognized as luminosity, that there is no doubt that one will become liberated in the Dharmakaya in the first bardo. And it is said that this liberation is just like, this recognition of luminosity is just like a child going onto its mother's lap, recognizing its mother. So it's liberation in the bardo, one attains enlightenment. And however, this is not very easy. And also the time is running out. And so we have not therefore completed the instructions on the natural liberation of ignorance, but that is actually fine because it will take quite a time for us to train in the first 2 instructions to recognize the dream and then also to transform and to emanate and to transform within the dreams.
Tsena ma nina ni kuwa ke korem te ta nga zo ta shiwa ke kapsu ke temrem te ni jikpa ndawo jikpa re ta desa ke chara re ma to o tende se ne ta ta ni nga rang zo takwa je malang ko la je 다 대남도 인가 바초 마성와서는 람바 인도 남마 니코고 고름데 무슨 베탐라고 진도니라고 제예나 되네 시보값수 마테는데 또 코로니지 빠래 되네 망가랑서 니 마니코 나타 스니 콩도와 되다 되네 대면고 값으로 봐 인종하게 대면 참아 대세는 되네 게 말아서 다다 이해가 효과값을 이해에 당간 렘도 요러 다 대단 직관으로서는 무슨 또 봐도 빈도 전부 연구요레스.
And so now when we go to sleep at night and we practice in this way, recognizing the stages, the dissolution as we fall asleep, actually when we die, the stages of dissolution are exactly the same. There's only a difference in subtlety. One is more coarse, one is more subtle. But also now, when you train, when you train in the dream yoga and you fall asleep without allowing any other thoughts to interrupt, you fall asleep, and then gradually you apply different methods and practices to recognize the various stages of dissolution, then that will be very beneficial also when you die, because the stages of dissolution are the same as falling asleep. So for example, just at the time of death, then also the 4 elements dissolve. And at that time, when one has actually died, one then comes, after complete dissolution, one comes to the fundamental ground of one's mind. And we do that also when we fall asleep. So if we now train in this way, because it is the same, then later it will be of great benefit to also recognize that at the time of death.
Oh yeah, tatana tren samja chuchu zoso. Tene kahela malam majana tagasa yin ga samsan la malam ri san ngusin do ni tende samsan yong do. Tende yong do jira sala katse yo malam ri san malam na ngusin to ni.
So we stop here for today, but before that, so sometimes for some it happens too that even though they don't actually practice the dream yoga, sometimes they just naturally recognize the dream state anyways. It just happens. So does that happen to you? And if so, like how many of you does it happen? Did it happen to you? Raise your hands.
I can see. No, Maji, no. Yeah. Tende chungwa ina te yabu me yabu le zige yore. Yeah.
Yeah, if that happens, it is said that this is considered actually something very positive. It's a good thing.
Tende te ke teni malam jana te se le lag ye sare.
So if that happens to you, then it will also be easier for you to train in the dreams.
Oh yeah, okay. Then we do short dedication prayers. Sunan de ye tamje zeba ni tomne ni be dona panse de jega nan je balon thoba siben solen rowa yo jamba pawe jetan jimbo dang kundo sombo te yan te yen te da kunje ji so da lo jen ke wan de da tamje rab do Sinje labdan sonye yongsu zoba nga tang jimbo dan chuje yan ra yin nambar ta ting samje me japa topji te te yin dan raba jo je
다단 곤데단 제제 두숨도 사바단 유베게와 자완데 다단 숨진단 제녀도 라나메바 양다발 조베 산조람보제 도바제 실사공사 건진제제제 덴네라완단도왕 른제바제덴 바신데바제로 투성고벤전조제 산조 셈조람보제 마제바난지제 제바냐바메바야 고네 곤덴베바
好，
谢谢拉玛 ，Thank you Ina，
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you, Lama. Thank you,
谢谢
Ina.
拉玛。
Thank you.
这人这话真的是那个读书少马上，他3年下。